Good afternoon or good evening, everyone. Hope you have enjoyed the day so far, but we are keeping the best for the last two sessions, well, at least for this session. We are going to talk about AI-enabled smarter networks. And before, starting the discussion with the panelists, so would like, to set the scene, so to give more context, to what we are going to discuss today. And as you know, as we are now rolling out 5G networks, and we are about, to roll out 5G advanced networks, and in the future, 6G networks, the networks operation, where rollout, operations, and management are getting incredibly complex, with the number of network configuration, both indoor and outdoor, with the plethora of services that will be targeting both consumers and industrial applications, and with the number of and variety of devices the network can handle. So all that will generate a tremendous complexity in the rollout of the network, but most importantly, in the way network will be operated in the future. So from that perspective, AI is becoming a key tool to help operators manage their complexity of the network, using advanced algorithms, including generative AI. And the technology can assess, vast amounts of data, generated from the network and from the end users to address various use cases, either that be optimizing the network performance through better utilization of radio resources, enhancing the experience of operating the network through increased automation and self-optimized networks, reducing OpEx through things like remote repair, enhanced network power efficiency, and predictive network maintenance, or even self-healing networks in the future. So AI could help also in enabling faster rollout of new services through zero-touch provisioning and network configuration. However, several challenges may face operators when deploying AI, particularly, for enabling smarter networks. And there is a common perception that mobile network operators still have, cultural barriers and lack of the skill sets that will enable them to develop and deploy AI solutions within the networks. So the panelists may disagree with that sentiment, but that's why they are here, to give us the opportunity to hear otherwise, and we will be discussing that topic particularly. So, and of course, another challenge is the rigorous governance is required to manage AI systems safely through their life cycle, from the network life cycle, from the design level throughout the network operation and maintenance. So those are the topics, we are going to discuss with our esteemed panelists. They are all experts, that will provide a huge value, to this discussion. So let me introduce them first. We have Fredric Sundin, Head of Network Development at Vodafone. We have Kirsty Bright. You have a long title, Kirsty, Mobile Network Core Strategy Director at Liberty Global. And then, we have Sana Jemaa, AI-Empowered Networks Program Lead at Orange. So I look forward, to discussing with you on how we can maximize the value of AI within networks, and how we can use AI to build intelligent, smarter networks. So before we start this discussion, we'll probably ask you to introduce your organization, your role, and how this role is relevant to AI-enabled smart networks. We'll start with you, Kirsty.
Okay, thanks, Malik. So apologies for my voice. I had lost it completely on Saturday. So Liberty Global, we are effectively a group organisation with 4 main telco operators. So Virgin Media O2, which we partly own with Telefonica, Sunrise in Switzerland, Telenet in Belgium, and Vodafone Ziggo again, where we are joint venture with Vodafone. So from an AI perspective, what's my role here? What's Liberty's role here? So across our opcos, and they're all at different levels of maturity on the AI journey, and what's been recently kicked off from a Liberty perspective, a more group perspective, is looking at this much more holistically to really assess across all of the different opcos, what is that level of AI maturity? What's actually being done, and where can we then leverage that across the group, and also provide recommendations, strategic thinking, to drive them in the right directions with regards to AI. So, I mean, AI is the big thing at the minute. I think AI is probably in every single conversation that our CEO has. We now have an AI area of our business through a reorganisation, which is also very recent as well. So I think there's 2 people in it at the minute, but it's it's a start. But it's that real shift in mindset and focus on what is AI actually going to bring, what value is it going to bring to our business, and why do we even need it? Which I guess we'll go into more detail on that anyway.
Correct.
But that's the kind of summary of how it fits.
Thank you, Kirsty. Fred?
Yeah, so Vodafone, we implemented a new organization a couple of years ago, where we are very much stretching across Europe now, and removed the local OpCo focus that was in the past. So in the past, Vodafone operated almost at its own entity in each country. Now it's much more of a global pan-European organization that is put in place. And we're obviously looking at how we can standardize and simplify things across Europe, and how we apply AI I guess to drive certain efficiencies across the business. However, it doesn't take away the local elements that we have in UK, or that is in Spain or in Italy. We all have slightly different challenges in terms of how we operate and our business models. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm focusing on UK from a Vodafone perspective, and how we build, plan, deploy, and operate our networks in the UK, both for mobile and fixed and fiber. I obviously see that AI can bring a huge amount of value in terms of how we plan our networks, how we build them, how we optimize the networks, and how we operate it. Not just to drive financial benefits from a Vodafone perspective, but more so important, bring more value to our customers. So that's where I see AI comes into play for us.
Thank you, Fred. Sana.
Yes, so to explain just the context, I am in Orange Innovation, which is the research and innovation entity of the Orange Group. Orange Group is, for the public networks, is present in about 27 countries. So we have 27 affiliates in Europe, in Middle East and Africa. The program I am working on has in charge to support those affiliates in the integration of AI in their processes, to reach the level 4 of the TM Forum referential by 2025, at least in the network monitoring domains. The main challenge comes from the heterogeneity of those contexts in terms of maturity, in terms of level of automation. You cannot put AI if you don't have at least a certain level of automation. And also in terms of regulatory constraints. So data sovereignty, the sovereignty constraint, the data residency constraint, which are very different from a country to another.
Thank you, Sana. So I think, the first question, I'm sure, everybody here would like, would want, to ask this question is, we have 3 organizations here, but I'm curious, on at what point your organizations are in terms of deploying AI for automated and smarter networks, and what are the next step, looking forward. So probably start with Kirsty.
So that's actually quite a big question because because of the broad base that we're talking about here. And also you've got to look at the different nuances with the operators. So take Virgin Media O2, for example, that's 2 years into the joint venture. So the prioritization, for example, has been very much on that joint venture.
Right.
And so, I mean, if you look across our markets, the maturity is very different, depending on the amount they've had to invest, the time they've had, the prioritization. So I think it is very dependent on a lot of different factors.
So is it fair to say it is your organization is basically at the early stage of prospecting?
I think each of them are at different levels. I would say some are further ahead, and also when you break it down into what they're doing, some are more advanced in one area, others are more advanced in another. So it is definitely varied, but I think the whole AI journey is not. It's from a telco perspective, it's not something that's happening particularly fast. Put it that way. Okay. I mean, it takes time. So.
Yeah. So you agree with that? Fred, you think telcos are rather slower than the rest of or than other industries in adopting AI, and where is Vodafone in that journey?
Yeah, I think first of all, automation and AI isn't something that is new to us. I mean, automations we worked on for quite a few years. But I guess what we can see now is that instead of it being quite scattered in different organizations and different teams, it's on a much more global scale across the whole business. I think we've been very successful in terms of driving, auto configurations, auto scripting, and all this, which is quite labor-heavy things, and it also introduces manual mistakes. So we've been very successful in that. Then when it comes to self-optimized networks, I think we're quite advanced. Obviously, I mean, it becomes even more challenging as you move into SDN and NFV and so on and everything, right? And it will create a much more dynamic environment, I think, is in terms of how you optimize your network. Looking at predictive maintenance has helped us a lot. We've been able to reduce the number of trouble tickets significantly. And as we've been able to free up capacity for engineers, we can reskill them and retrain them and also make sure that they spend much more time on high skill, high value tasks for the business. I think also as this has matured much more over, I would say especially over the past 2.5 years, we can see a lot of data, because as we have majority of the data in the cloud now, we can start to see a much more holistic view of how the data is related to each other. And that has provided certain insights to the business that we didn't have in the past. That helps us to drive right decisions based on not only how the network is behaving, but more so based on how the customers are behaving.
Right. Yeah. So in fact, you are deploying AI for I would say lower keys use cases, and I'm careful using lower keys, predictive maintenance, that require probably tabular or graph-based, not advanced AI. Is that?
Yeah, we do it to create a more efficient workforce.
Right.
So we're looking at that, the optimization of the networks, how we operate the networks, and also it helps us to identify opportunities. on where we can become more effective and more efficient. So those are the 4 key areas that we are focusing on at the moment. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, thank you. And Sana, Orange, where are you in terms of deploying AI so far?
Yeah, that's a good question. Because as I said, I mean, we have heterogeneous context, but I will maybe be talking about what we are doing for some European countries. So what we have as in-house development, and we have also a lot of work about sourcing solutions that allow us to accelerate. But what we are doing with respect to in-house development is about CapEx optimization, so all what is about network planning, network densification. So the AI part is related to predicting accurately the traffic evolution and also the business characteristics of the area where we will have those deployment. We are also working on predictive maintenance with big impact on intervention, field intervention, which is a very, important cost reduction pocket for the AI from our point of view. What we haven't done yet, at least not really, is the optimization, closing the loop based on AI and making decision. Giving the decision to an AI algorithm. This is something that we haven't done yet. And also, of course, putting things together. Once you close the loop, you need to put things together, and having the whole system intelligent is something that we will need a few years to fulfill. I think it's
right. So let me stay with you, Sana. So once that loop is closed, and you have fully optimized, network, operated or powered by AI. What are, the gains are you expecting, to have in the longer term, And if you could quantify, those gains, what pain points, what basically value that could create for you. So I think that's an important element, to understand what are we trying to achieve here.
So what we are trying to achieve for the investment part is to optimize the investment and also to optimize them in time. So, for example, to push in time any investment that is not required today. This is done through this capacity, capacity need optimization, but also it's done through operational optimization. So if you are using all the potential of your network because you are operating your network in an optimal manner, then you can have more traffic for the same infrastructure and push the investments. This is the first point. The second point is the operational efficiency, of course. Mm-hmm. So, which consists, we heard this, several times today, which consists in putting people on less repetitive tasks and not removing people from their job, so not firing people. The third point is about the intervention, which is a very important place where you have huge costs. I discovered the numbers. I was very shocked about the cost of intervention with respect to all the rest of the operation. So that's what we would like to gain through putting AI almost everywhere and having also good orchestration that allows all the system to work coherently.
Yeah, thank you, Sana. So same question, to Fred and after that, Kirsty. What is the goal? If you have to justify, AI deployment to your CEO or CFO, what would you? How would you put that to them?
Yeah, I think it touches on a lot of what you said. Sometimes we talk about network optimization or cost optimization. I guess I choose to say business optimization. The networks that we're building today becomes more and more complex. I think, you have more and more consolidations going on, more technologies, more spectrum, different type of devices, different customer behaviors, new applications being developed. That puts a lot of demand on the network as such. We're not really there with real-time optimization in a dynamic manners in terms of, following the customers, around the corners and how we change parameters and so on, right? I think that's very important. I'm pretty sure that most operators, if not all, can say that we probably invested in technologies and sites and locations that hasn't fully provided a good return of investment always. I think we need to use AI to understand the customer behaviors much more, create a much more dynamic real-time optimization of features and parameters and power settings across the network, so that it can advise us on where we invest in the network and what we invest to get to that return on investment. And also that we sweat all of the assets in the network, which is not always happening today. I think we potentially invest in capacity. Let's just look at what has happened the past years, pandemics, right? Most operators invest a lot of capacity into, in UK, London, for example. Pandemic happens, people start to move out to rural areas. It shifts the capacity investments out to rural areas. Everybody's working remote. People are now moving back in again. So, is there a lot of capacity sitting out there that isn't really being sweat? Are we really sweating the assets? Or is it about looking at, should this actually be redeployed somewhere else rather than going out and buying new, right? So I think it's, a lot of the business optimization, cost optimization, but also provide us the insights for us to make the right decisions. I think that's what I would say one of the key areas for us.
Yeah. So anything to add, Kirsty?
I think the only thing really to add is around what's happening with telcos and the fact that we want to be more than just providing a network. And if we are to do that, and if we are to go on that journey, truly go on that journey, transforming to become more like tech companies, we have to be delivering and having the most efficient network run by AI that can actually cope with what we need to be delivering on the top in the way of digital services. And so this is where, you touched on the customer point. I mean, this is really where, I'll take VMO2, for example, as a perfect example. You've got the network part of the business and the digital part of the business, which have been running almost completely independently. And this is where we bringing them together with bringing that customer data and the network data, and actually this is where you harness that power to really understand what it is we need to be delivering to be able to monetize our network effectively. So that's probably all I can add on, build on what you've said.
Yes, I think, Sana and Fred, focused more on basically the optimization, cost saving, but you are bringing very good points, this is, AI deployment is also about innovation in terms of delivering new services, in almost real time, launching new services in days or weeks rather than waiting for that, and reacting, almost in real time to demands you are having, and that creates a huge value. But, many questions, the ability of operators, to create, the right skill set and culture for deploying, AI over their networks. So now you could disagree or agree with that sentiment, but I'll leave it to you. So I think, the reason I'm asking that, I've been following AI for several years, but I haven't seen anything moving as fast as, AI frameworks, AI models, and AI implementations. So this is a business that is really moving very fast. And as you said early on, telecoms tends to take their time, in evaluating the technologies and so on. But unfortunately, the clock is ticking. So how are you going to build the right skill sets that are able to react almost in real time, to the AI development, because, when you see a model developing today, probably tomorrow is too late, for it to be implemented. That fast, AI is moving. Sana?
Yeah, maybe just one point. I mean, telcos are not taking their time to evaluate. We are trying to put the AI concepts on the top of the complexity of the networks with all the constraints that we have. And it doesn't work like that. I mean, it takes time to it's about the complexity of the topology, the specificities of the network, the knowledge of the data that we should be handling, and also the quality of the data that we have. We have, for example, in some legacy still networks, some databases that were filled 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. So you can, with textual information written by operational teams. So you can imagine how much you can exploit this kind of databases. So I think it's not taking time to evaluate. It's more about the complexity of the network. Even in operator, AI goes much faster on IT and business rather than on networking and operations.
Right.
So that's the...
So Fred, how fast?
Yeah, I agree. We're not sitting around rolling our thumbs directly. I think, it has the highest priorities and full focus, but there's lots of things to overcome. It doesn't matter what skills you have or how many people you have. If you sit there with an old legacy network that aren't capable for where you can't apply AI, then it's not going to help you if you have 100 experts in the company. Mm-hmm. I think, secondly, you talked about it, Kirsty, in terms of the gap between the business and AI. We need to be looking at how we're organized and structured. We talked about that earlier today. I think if you don't have the right structure, you won't enable it. The culture is absolute key. If you don't get the people on the journey, they won't support you. You can have a number of SMEs and experts that knows everything about AI and can do everything. But if you don't have 90% of the workforce with you, it's just going to slow down. So I think, there's what we've been struck by is that, it's not just to employ a number of SMEs and experts here. Right? Nothing's going to happen then. You need to go on a multiple transformational journey, network transformational journey in terms of rationalizing, legacy, modernizing, simplifying the network architecture. You need to go on the organizational journey. How do you structure and change your organization so that you enable this, so that you don't work in silos, so have two groups working against each other. We talked about the processes needs to be simplified. We have a lot of complicated processes as a result of multiple tools, multiple platforms, data right, left, and center. Too many handovers within the organization. Processes needs to be simplified. So if we don't do the culture transformation, the process transformation, the organizational and network transformation, it doesn't matter how big your ambitions are from a digital perspective, I think, or how many people you have, it's just not going to happen. So you need to realize that you can't work on a digital strategy in isolation. Mm-hmm. It's much more holistic and broad than that for you to be successful.
Yeah. Kirsty, anything to add? Sorry.
Probably not a lot to add, really. I mean, I think just on the last point, I think the higher up in the organisation that strategic messaging goes and changes to help, feed that cultural change, the better, really. So I think that's where having something AI related in the high level strategy is important.
Yeah, I think that's a very important point, as if you want to implement AI, the first step is to look at a global strategy rather than siloed strategy for AI. That's the first thing. And then, the second most important step is the data governance, because, you have plenty of data generated across multiple parts of your organizations. And there is a need, for having a kind of governance across the whole organization to be able to tap in and maximize the opportunities from creating intelligence around with data. So I think my next question is around basically, we heard all that's, from 5G advanced to 6G, AI will be native to the network. So I just want to trigger your belief on that. And secondly, if AI is going, to be native, so that means, that's why I was talking about the skill sets early on. So you have either, to build those skill sets and create, the right model for building and implementing AI models that are right for your networks, or then influence, your suppliers of AI and involve them in be part of the standards that are, the network standards. But I'm still not seeing, the first point or second point happening. I don't know what is your opinion of AI native to the network, and how are you going to involve, the AI industry that is really fast moving towards innovation. So how are you going to involve, this industry for your standards? Probably Fred's.
Yeah, I think the development is going at such a rapid pace, right? Can anyone do everything by themselves in isolation? No, I don't think so. You need to get to a stage where you co-create and coexist with other partners, and you need to work together with the same ambitions and same objective. I think what we can also see is, and I talked about it earlier, is that the attitude and behavior of people have completely changed. If I just look at the past 3 years, right? So before, people were scared, afraid of it a bit. What is AI? No one was really on the train or on the boat. I think now people are looking at it with excitement, right? And they realize the capabilities of the technology, and it enables them to do things. Today it works more as an enabler for us. I think going forward, yes, it will drive more innovations, but I don't see that anyone can tackle all of the challenges themselves. This is something that I think the industry need to work together on much more, and bring in and startup companies and innovators and things, and have much more collaboration about co-creating and things, and accept that it's not always about compete, it's about coexistence, right? And how do we change the industry together as a team? Mm-hmm. I think that's where discussion needs to happen going forward.
I think that is happening. I think there is definitely a shift around, the fact that we can't do this by ourselves. We are part of an ecosystem, and it is a case of looking at those smart minds and those smaller companies. I mean, I know on the work I've been working on recently, not AI related, but it's all been about going out to smaller companies that have got something quite unique that we can then leverage, and we can bring in. I mean, obviously Liberty looks at them and wants to buy them, but that's their usual stance. But it's like, how can we actually work with them and partner as part of that ecosystem? And I saw it changing at Vodafone when I was there too as well.
Yeah, and I think the change has accelerated a lot in the past. If you just look at how it was 2 years ago and where we are today, it's a massive change in terms of how people look at this and address it. Yeah, and I'm working with startup companies for sure. I mean, we engage with companies on a weekly basis. We work very close. We have a section in Vodafone called Tomorrow Street that brings on new companies, startup companies, introduce them to all of the different local markets. And what's interesting with these companies is that they are not always about telecom. They come from different parts of industries.
Right.
And what you can see then is that, hey, what happens in I don't know, in the car industry or the medical industry, is actually, that actual process would fit very well into what we're doing. So you really start to open up your eyes and mind to what's out there, right? And these companies are attracting so many developers and popping up like mushrooms right, left, and center. So it's almost a challenge to to actually be selective in terms of which one you pick, right? So and I think, you know, to help you on that journey, you need to have an AI framework and so that you understand where you should be looking at applying AI and help you with some guidance. I think is important.
Yeah.
Can I just build on the skills point?
Yeah,
Because
go
I think
ahead.
just touching on what you were saying there about you know, people from different backgrounds and things, and this is something I've seen again very much at Virgin Media too, is the number of different types of backgrounds that people are coming in and not telco backgrounds. And this is what, but you need both, and it's it is finding that balance. So you do need the experience of a network and a telco background, because it is complicated. It is something that you have to have lived and breathed and understood. However, you've then got these guys coming in from like the digital natives, all this, that are bringing that experience in, and then combining together with the telco side of things, you're starting to really see this is where you're starting to see the change. And so you're getting the thinking and the telco background together.
Yeah, you know, I think it's good, you know, the telco industry is getting inspired, you know, from other technologies or other industries. You know, I think, you know, I have 2 examples. I think, you know, we discussed that, you know, in the rehearsal. You know, definitely, you know, the manufacturing industry, particularly automotive and electronics. You know, the semiconductor business. They are highly automated, and not just, you know, the rollout of equipment, is the entire equipment life cycle management, you know, from the design to deployment to operation to maintenance, you know, and all that loop is closed, you know, and I think, you know, the telcos needs to learn some lessons, you know, from there. So I have plenty of other questions to ask, but we have about 5-10 minutes left, and I better probably open it to the floor for some questions if you have. Otherwise, I'm happy to carry on. Any questions?
Thanks. Ooh, it works. Nick Randall here from NetMinded. I would ask the panel to go beyond where they are at the moment with their highly complex problem space. So you've heard a lot about the use of AI to fix internal problems, essentially, complexity of solution, network rollouts, new technologies. When do you think you guys will be offering AI as a service? It'll become a product that you sell to your customer base. How far away are we from that sort of thinking?
This is an interesting question. So Kirsty, why don't you start? You know, like offering AI as a service to your customers.
No, I mean, you know, we touched on it briefly earlier today, right? In terms of giving more power to the hands of the customers, right? And creating dashboards and visibility for them, right? To be able to use some of the AI themselves, right? To change certain things to improve their own experience, right? But I think it's a fine line where you provide it either to a customer to play around with it as they please, or if you provide it not just as a product but almost like a service where you help companies and industries. What we've seen when we engage with a lot of, especially SMEs, I would say, small, medium-sized companies, they're probably the ones that need the most amount of help on this journey, to be honest. I think large, complex, you know, large, big global companies, they've invested a lot in this. But what we see when we engage with SMEs is that there is a gap, right? They don't have a digital department or a technology or a CTO or, you know, and that's where we see us adding a lot of value, and we're already helping enterprise customers on that journey to help them to actually digitalize their own business, to help them on this AI journey. And there's a quite big gap there in terms of where the AI or digital industry is versus where SMEs are. They don't fully understand the technical capabilities of what's out there today, so they don't really know what they can ask or not. And then you have lots of engineers sitting here saying, this can do everything for you. But if you don't understand that language, then you have problems actually identify opportunities within your own business yourself. So the gap there needs to be closed down. And that's where we step in as Vodafone with our enterprise customers, say, hey, we're assessing your business. Oh, you're doing this. This is a lot of repetitive tasks. This can actually be automated. This is something we can help you with. So I think it's more of as a service type of thing that we're doing at the moment, rather than putting a product into their hands or things like that. But it's a huge gap there between SMEs and the technical capabilities that are out there, and that gap needs to be bridged, I think.
So anything to add? No. So any other questions?
My name is Shaya. I work with Amrita University. When we are talking about AI, one wonders whether, like the internet was developed and the OTTs made good use of it. No offense, but they have a business model which runs, and they have net neutrality which supports them too. Yeah. So when there was a question on AI as a service, I wonder whether really is it that telcos will offer it, or is it some third parties who will be using the telecom network to its full capability can offer those AI as a service. For example, there is this smart farming use case. We were looking at it. Yeah. In that use case, you do machine learning with a lot of large farms, yeah, and try to apply sprays according to the zone by zone, rather than a person doing it manually, you know. So in that case, we did not find any role for the operator per se, but we had an image processing company. They have developed an app which is running on the top of the telecom network. So I wonder whether that is also another angle that might go when AI matures in a very compliant way. I don't mean to say I appreciate the regulated markets. Data is handled very carefully. But I think there's a potential for when the 3GPP network data analytics function comes into the picture, which is actually democratizing the data. And enterprises then can take that limited control that colleagues from Vodafone are saying and develop their own AI features into that, just in addition to that. Yeah. Thank you.
Right, so, what telcos can deploy as far as AI is concerned, third parties cannot, for enterprises and others. So what are, the key applications where telco are crucial for deploying AI? So any thought?
I think we have this same discussion where we were talking a few years ago about 5G and the new use cases that 5G could bring. And it was a big challenge for telcos to have this position of, for example, on private networks. On private networks, you have all the possible configuration today on the market. You have telcos and you have non-telcos providers, especially if you don't have this barrier of paying the license. So I think it's the same question here. We will have new services on which telco can have. I don't see any any barrier that gives the telcos a preferential position. in this context, just to be clear. But there is also all the knowledge and the know-how of the telcos that could help them in going towards this kind of market. So it's not, it's not that the telco have no role. They should, if they want, it depends on the strategy of each operator, have a role and capitalize on all what they know and do for other domains. So we were talking about skills, all the skills that we are building for operating the network and for business targets can also be used to go towards this kind of market.
In other words, you're saying they can build super apps using AI.
I think. Looking at it, it's also looking at what's your core business. Should we be developing apps? There's millions of app developers, I guess, around the world today. Can we compete with them? I doubt it, right?
Do we want
to? And do we want to? Is that our core business? You're talking about devices or IoT sensors. Is that what we want to move into and provide sensors? Smart farming. I think in some cases we have created certain devices. We're doing quite a lot with rainforests and things in Vodafone, and looking at the trees and the state of trees and so on. Is that something that maybe will kick off and generate more business in the future potentially? Is it our core business today? Not really. But then you're moving away from competing with maybe 3 operators in UK to millions of app developers and device creators and things, and that's a big task, I think.
Right. So personal opinion, obviously, the right spots, for delivering, these applications is to start with, the strength of telcos, which is, mission critical and enterprise grade, type of connectivity. That's very important. So there are plenty of things you can do using, that mission criticality of connectivity and plug AI on the top. That's the first thing. Second thing, with radio resources, will be open, to third-party applications, radio, through radio intelligence control and so on. So there are plenty of applications that you can plug using AI there, for either AR, VR applications, for energy saving, for security, for location technologies and positioning. So all those applications will enjoy, AI, because they are using the radio resources of telcos that they can plug those type of edge applications, into it. But that's a personal opinion. So I don't know if we have, do we still have some time, for just wrap up and...
No, you're out of time.
We're over.
Carry on for a bit.
Yeah, well, I just would like, to ask, the panelists, just in one main recommendation from your experience to the audience when it comes to AI, what they should avoid and what they should, go for.
Just to keep it really simple, have AI as a headline message coming from the top to drive it through your organization.
Yeah, create an environment where it can flourish, I think.
Yeah. And if you want to hire people, hire translators, people who are able to talk to machine learning engineer, to data engineer, and also to network specialists.
Very good point, Sana. Yeah, well, thank you very much for your input. Really enjoyed.
Thank you very much.
Discussing with you. Thank you.